As I am, I'd like to introduce Mel Hewitt. Now Mel is a musical skiller. If anyone, maybe skier too, I don't know.
Definitely not a skier.
Multi-skiller, try saying that quickly. If anyone is. Listen to this. He has been a past president and vice president of the ABC Friends New South Wales and ACT for many years, as well as being the current editor of Update magazine newsletter, which we all read. His involvement began in 2007. He's also a passionate musician and a music educator. He graduated from Sydney Conservatorium in 1996, majoring in violin and voice.
66.
Sorry, 66. My printer is playing up. This is why it's a little bit difficult to read a few words. Sorry. Most of his teaching career of 40 years was spent in Western Sydney high schools, where he established band and orchestral programs. From 1981 to 1989, he worked in the Department of Education's Performing Arts Unit, leading state-wide performance programs and music camps. He's also worked with youth orchestras and choirs from America, Canada, UK and Europe and throughout Australia, and established the occasional Performing Symphonia in 1993, of which he is musical director. He's retired, so he says, but I don't believe it.
Semi.
Well, at least from the New South Wales Department of Education. Now that was in 2005. And he continues his passion for music education. And he's going to tell us now why Update is an essential part of the ABC's life and ours.
Thank you, Colin. Listen and put up your hand if you recognise. Okay. An example, as is this, of old technology. That tune goes back to the 1600s and great English composer Thomas Tallis. And it was written as a vocal item, a vocal piece. The great English composer Ralph Vaughan Williams took it, and on that he composed his Fantasia on a theme of Thomas Tallis. Now, if you were listening to ABC Classic this morning at about 8:15, you would have heard it.
Played by you?
No, not played by me, played by a whole lot of, because it was written for a string orchestra.
Yes.
And played much better than me.
Well,
But
Tallis is dead. Let's hope the Update is not.
well, yes, Tallis is long dead. Vaughan Williams is dead. Died in 1957, but a truly great composer who frequently drew on what we would call old technology. This is old. I'm going to refer quite a bit to old technology because it's used by the ABC and by politicians as an excuse to deprive people of the service, the broadcasting service. And I'll refer more to that later on. This is old technology too. It was actually made in 1862 by a great French violin maker named Jean-Baptiste Villaume, and in 1966 my wonderful violin teacher at the Conservatorium, Phyllis MacDonald, said, "Friend of mine, Joyce Anderson, is about to leave the Sydney Symphony and she's selling her violin. You should buy it." And I said, "How much?" And she said £600, which of course was quite a lot of money. I was still doing my paper run in Artarmon. Now, even though I'm a Westie and been a Westie for a very long time, I actually have a dark past, and that is that I spent a number of years of my life in Artarmon, went to years 5 and 6 at Artarmon Public School, not the opportunity classes, mind you. We had come down from Tamworth at the end of 55. So I had my primary at Artarmon, and then my high school at North Sydney Boys High School, and most of my teacher training. I still lived at Artarmon, but then we went west. My dad was a minister in the Presbyterian Church, and we went out to Guildford, Maryland. And I started my teaching career at Maryland's High School, which was a wonderful, wonderful place to start. So I had time growing up, but my ABC credentials go way back. And I have memories at Tamworth, where Dad was minister at St Andrews. If you've driven through Tamworth, it's the big church on the corner opposite the post office. I started primary at Tamworth Primary. My older brothers were at primary and high school there, and we used to walk home for lunch. Mum used to prepare a cooked lunch, and we would walk home, and at 1 o'clock we would all listen to Blue Hills. Who listened to Blue Hills? Gwen Meredith. Da dee da 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 dee da da da. The tune is still occasionally played on our ABC, on ABC Classic. So come home to lunch, to Blue Hills, but much of my music education I owe to the ABC. I was an Argonaut. Stesichorus 35 was my name and number, and so I listened to Mr. Melody Man every Thursday afternoon on the Argonauts Club. Lindley Evans he was, who I later met in real life as a piano teacher at Sydney Conservatorium.
And Clark James.
Yes. The Sydney Symphony used to come to Tamworth once a year, but of course every day we could hear the orchestra on the radio. Now I'm going to refer quite a lot to what has been lost and what we have lost. Mum and I used to go, when I was a boy still at school, we'd go into the subscription concerts at the town hall, come out the Druid Street entrance, and there would be the ABC broadcast van recording the concert, because once upon a time, back in the good old days, every concert of the Sydney Symphony was recorded by the ABC and broadcast at some stage or other to the whole of Australia.
Never simultaneously.
No. Not, well, occasionally, yes, simultaneously, but usually recorded.
Right.
That has been lost from the ABC. I can recall one broadcast recently, and that was Simone Young conducting the SSO in the restored Opera House Concert Hall last year. That was broadcast by the ABC, not direct, but it was recorded and broadcast. That is something that has been lost to us, that capacity to do that. And of course the ABC had staff in every capital city who recorded and broadcast the orchestras of that capital city. Did you know that Opera Australia, or it was called then the Australian Opera, was recorded by the ABC, and you could watch an opera on ABC television that was recorded and then broadcast? All gone. All of that facility is gone, which I consider a great loss to all of us. Was anyone listening to ABC Classic this morning? No, we have no ABC Classic fans here. It's really interesting, just before 8 o'clock, an interview. Megan Bursman was the presenter on ABC Classic, and she interviewed a 13-year-old girl in Perth whose name is Ali Moronzo. She had just played a recording of Ali's violin concerto that she has written and was playing herself, a 13-year-old. And I guess it's something that we still have, that the ABC, on ABC Classic, does promote our performers, particularly our young performers, and does that really well. By the way, are you driven mad? Another thing that's been lost, you know the ABC used to have on staff 3 pronunciation guide people.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that?
Yes.
No more.
No more.
That's obvious.
It's gone. Isn't it obvious?
Yeah.
Even when all the young ones say, the ABC, that annoys me intensely. We were all taught at school, THE followed by a vowel is pronounced the ABC, the apple, the orange, the antelope. Okay? It flows. The ABC does not flow. Does it? It's what it has in what we call a glottal stop. The ABC. And it's one thing that would have been cured by the old pronunciation guys that they had. And you would think a broadcaster would need something like that. Because you hear it all the time. Even the names of towns in New South Wales by the weatherman on, what did I hear him say the other night? Some hopelessly mispronounced name of a country town in New South Wales. Because...
Tumblegun.
Oh, well.
Tobacco.
Yeah. It was something much more simple than that he mispronounced, but that's another example of what we have lost on the ABC. Even the wonderful Juanita, who's now gone from ABC News last week, you know that she has gone. She's no longer doing the news. Occasionally you hear her mispronounce something, and that's rather unusual, but it does happen. Anyway, I've had an interesting time just sort of preparing for this. I'm a hoarder. I am in trouble with my wife at home. We have a shed. We live on 20 acres up a bush up in the Blue Mountains at Falconbridge. And somebody is going to have an awful job when I die. I suggest to my wife, just hire a truck and put everything on the truck, because I have a shed full of filing cabinets. Believe it or not, lesson plans from my first year of teaching in 1967 are there in a filing cabinet somewhere. I have kept everything, including my collection of updates going back to the year 2000. I have every update print copy going back to the year 2000. I joined the ABC as a friend in the 1990s. I started the Parramatta branch in the year 2000, and I can find updates for every edition going back to 2000. Later on, after I finish, if you want to have a look on that table over the side, you'll find a whole lot of old updates. If you're interested in any one in particular, by all means take it, okay? They're yours to take. Those piles were in one of my filing cabinets, so that's one job done. Clear it out.
To die yet.
And you don't have to take them, but
Are you allowed to take them home?
yes, yes. Now, something else rather strange is happening in this meeting. On your chairs, you have a bundle of bits of paper. Now, I thought initially, will I do a PowerPoint or something? But you know what? There's stuff in that you could not present in a PowerPoint that is worth reading. So I thought, I'll print it all,
Wow.
and you can take it home. And read it at your leisure, because amongst it is a book, and I hold it up on the front page of the book. It's just 40 pages of odd excerpts from Update. Caroline Jones, an article in memory of Caroline Jones on the front. And I'm going to just sort of walk through that book and talk about a few things in it. What is Update? I call it a newsletter. It's the newsletter of ABC Friends, and it was interesting going back through all the old updates. Nothing much has changed since the year 2000. Now, back then, I've got, I wrote down somewhere, back in the days of Penelope Toltz leading ABC Friends, and early 2000, Gary Cook was president, and Bill Johnston took over from him, but was president for a very short time and then decided he couldn't do it. So at the end of 2005, I took over the presidency. I was an accidental president. I was vice president, and then suddenly Bill went, and so I accidentally became president. I also accidentally became editor of Update in March 2006. And I thought, yeah, I'll do it for a while and then we'll get somebody, a proper editor, to do it. I've been doing it ever since. March 2006. March 2007, I beg your pardon, was my first edition of Update, and so it's been a bit of a long haul since then. I'll just put that down. Turn the mic off. Everyone hearing okay? I don't think I need a mic. Okay. I must make absolutely clear, I did not and I do not do Update on my own. I work with a team of people. And for most of those years, I had a wonderful man in Wollongong, Chris Cartledge, who looked after all the IT side, the technological side, and Angela Williamson, whom you have met recently. She came here, didn't she, as a speaker. So Angela looked after the mechanics of production and getting Update out. They've both retired from those jobs, and I now have a fantastic team. Diana, sitting in the front here, is my assistant editor, and we have two great helpers, Raoul and Sue, who also Sue looks after the proofreading side of things, and Raoul looks after the production side, taking over from Angela. So it has always been a team working together on it, because it's hard work. Many, many hours go into the production of each Update. What's it for? I believe it is for these things: to provide a voice for members all over, at the moment all over Australia, because in 2016, with the formation of the National Friends Body, up until then we were separate states operating independently. In 2016 we became a national body, and Update became a national newsletter. Generally 3 times a year production. We are a voice for individual members to write letters or to write articles, and almost every update you will find letters from members and articles written by members. Reports. All the state branches write their reports, and New South Wales is the only state with branches, as we do. You are, of course, one of the branches of New South Wales, and if you look on the back page of Update, you will see all of the rest. Victoria has also branches, they call them groups instead, otherwise the other states do not. Relatively small membership in other states, so they just have a state body. Branches love learning what other branches are doing. Gives them ideas, gives them inspiration. They find out, hey, that's not a bad idea, let's do it ourselves. And so the reports from branches are an opportunity for other branches to get ideas and just share with everybody what they have been up to themselves in their branch. What else do we put in Update? We put in articles from current serving ABC staff. Looking back over the years, going back to 2000, probably Quentin Dempster was the biggest contributor to Update over all of those years, both as an ABC staff member and when he was sacked notoriously in 2014 as part of the great Abbott clean-out of the ABC when 1,200 staff were lost. And Quentin Dempster was one of those. He didn't want to go, he wasn't ready to go, he wasn't ready to retire, but he was made redundant by the ABC. Quentin's been a great contributor. Kerry O'Brien, regular over the years. I could go through a whole list of ABC journalists who've provided us with copy very willingly for Update. I'm going to ask you if you would just open up I'm going to take you through. Front page, Caroline Jones and Diana sitting here in the front put together that tribute to Caroline Jones, drawing on a number of sources. And that's one of the, I think, the really positive things that we have happening in Update. You don't have access to all of the articles that are produced on the ABC. You probably don't provide by The Guardian or The Weekender or other, certainly not The Australian, other sources online as well as newspapers. Now, what Diana has done in many instances is drawn on a number of sources and put together an article drawing on what a number of people have said. And so you will find that in that particular article when you read that tribute to Caroline Jones. We hear what a number of people have to say. Ida Buttrose, comment from her, David Anderson, Jennifer King in The Guardian, and Lee Sales, who was then host of 7:30. Turn over to page 2, and you've got a double page spread, again prepared by Diana, of groundbreaking, politician-disturbing Four Corners programs. Four Corners programs that have led to royal commissions or inquiries that have exposed something that needed exposing. I call Four Corners a searchlight. It shines the bright light in dark places where politicians do not want us to go.
Menzies come back from overseas to kick Alan Ashbolt out of Four Corners.
Yes, right. So, that's an enormous, Australia owes an enormous amount to the team that produces Four Corners. We are a better society, not that a change often results. One of those articles, and I'm going to find the page, sorry, turn over, beg your pardon. Right, page 19, halfway through. Would we have known without our ABC? And the answer to that is no. The ABC obtained footage from the Dondale Youth, well, it's a jail. No other name for it. Dondale, outside of Darwin, where they lock up Aboriginal kids and do dreadful things to them. Now, within a few hours of that program being aired on the ABC, Malcolm Turnbull called for a royal commission. Such was the horror at what we saw in Dondale. And yes, the royal commission took place, but can I tell you, Dondale is still there. Yeah. It's still full of Aboriginal. I drove past it, took our kids up to Darwin during the last holidays. I've driven past it. It is still there. Look at what Queensland has just done. Anastasia Palaszczuk should hang her head in shame. The latest bill, just to show the public we're being tough on crime, locking up even more Aboriginal kids. And they're all Aboriginal. Don't worry about, locking up white kids. They're all Aboriginal. Not one government, state government, has taken the trouble to go to the authorities, and they must be First Nations people, and say, how do we solve this problem? Their only solution is to lock them up. That way they can say, we're getting them off the streets, we're being tough on crime. Okay, just quickly going through page 6. That was in February 20, in Update, following the bushfires. Kylie's bushfire story is only one of the stories that we published in Update from a member of Friends who had first-hand experience. Next page, close to the bone, what it takes to tell Australian stories. A great story from Sue Pinnock, wonderful former President of South Australia. Page 9, Margaret Throsby reflects on 50 years of broadcasting. Dear Margaret, you know what? She said the ABC. She didn't say the ABC. And I don't know whether they're still using her, but Margaret was used very much as a person to coach new ABC stuff. And page 11, an open letter to, page 10, launch of a new ABC Friends branch. Look at it. There it is. North Sydney, northern suburbs of Sydney, although it was then called Northern Suburbs, wasn't it? North Sydney, wasn't it in those days?
I don't know what it was called. Yeah.
Anyway, new branch, and then I'm going to close because I think my time's just about up. Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, we have question time.
Yes.
And maybe people might like to ask a question.
Yes, most certainly. you will have a page there,
Ah.
maintaining the rage. Walter Bass, Bassie. I had the privilege of speaking at Bassie's funeral. A great privilege. What a wonderful man. And we owe him an enormous debt. Incidentally, I flashed over page 4 of this. More than a friend of the ABC, you'll find Angela Williamson's article about Corin.
Don't embarrass me.
Sorry. Okay. Can I tell you what I think is the stupidest decision ever made by a government of either side?
That's the competition.
And yeah, there's a lot of competition. But after years of trying, in 2012, Australia Network, TV network broadcasting into Asia was, the ABC was given permission to broadcast into China. Rupert Murdoch had been trying for years, the Chinese wouldn't have a bar of it. So in 2012, Australia Network, which was funded not from the ABC, but from DFAT, Department of Foreign Affairs funding, 200 million. DFAT had to fund a television service into Asia and the Pacific. 2012, permission given to broadcast into China. And at that stage we had radio going into China and we had shortwave covering the entire Pacific area. In fact, on pages 12 and 13 of this booklet, you've got pictures of where the shortwave covered. 2014, Abbott got in to government as Prime Minister, having promised no cuts to the ABC. Very quickly, Julie Bishop, Foreign Minister, withdrew the $200 million from Department of Foreign Affairs, which was used to fund Australia Network. So no money. Australia Network was cut. I had a friend who was teaching in Taiwan, in an international school, and he said, nobody over here can understand. All the Americans on the staff watched ABC television, not the alternative from America, because they said it was better. And they could not understand why that television service was cut. The best soft diplomacy Australia had into China and into the Pacific was Australia Network. All our top ABC shows were broadcast into Asia and into the Pacific. Then Abbott cuts started, and in 2014 we started off with about 400 million. Ultimately, the Abbott government, Abbott and the succeeding Liberal governments took from the ABC a total of $900 million. And we lost 1,200 staff from the ABC as a result of those cuts. But in December 2016, the ABC announced we are ceasing the shortwave service. Every Pacific government contacted the Australian government and said, please do not stop shortwave. We depend on it for our emergency broadcasting. Cyclones sweeping through the Pacific. I spent a lot of time in the Pacific sleeping in a tent on Kiribati one morning and woke at 7 o'clock in the morning and heard the ABC News coming through on shortwave, on a radio like this. I've had 40 years working in remote communities in the Northern Territory. Every Christmas holidays, finish school, pack up the Land Rover, take 30 people out and build houses on remote Aboriginal communities. My brother is still in Alice Springs. He's 83. He's still helping out on Aboriginal communities because they call him when they need technical assistance. And there, on remote communities, the Aboriginal people got their country music and their AFL footy broadcasts on shortwave radio. Again, on a radio just like that. Shortwave worked. I referred to old technology. This is old technology. In fact, you can go back, Antonio Stradivari, old technology, back in the early 1700s, making violins. They haven't been able to make them better since. And that's old technology. Shortwave was old technology, but it worked. My brother is the Alice Springs one. He's worked on the ABC transmitter at Alice Springs, and he said it's still serviceable. But shortwave was cut by management of the ABC. In July 2017, I flew out to Alice Springs and participated in a public meeting where the entire ABC board were present. Michelle Guthrie was, of course, managing director. And there were 120 Northern Territorians there, and shortwave had been stopped, and they said, the one thing we really want is the restoration of shortwave. And Michelle Guthrie actually got up and said, we will not be restoring shortwave because you don't need it anymore. You've got the vast satellite. Okay. To receive a signal from the vast satellite, you need a dish. You need a computer. And then you need something to make the sound. A couple of $1,000. So that was Michelle Guthrie's total ignorance of the fact that if you have a radio, $70 radio like this, and all the Aboriginal people had them, you could receive the shortwave radio signal. And if you turn to page 16 in your booklet, Phil Somerville has been doing cartoons for Update since the very first update. And he's got a couple of beauties there. If you look up the top one, I love a sunburned budget, a land of mindless cuts, of lunches long in Sydney. Out here, a plate of butts. I love Michelle's cool thinking. I love her jewelled will, her beauty and her terror, so she can save 1 mil. And his beauty down the bottom of a drover on a horse with a dish and a computer, so he can receive the vast satellite. Now, out there, there's still silence. There's an AM FM transmitters in Tennant Creek, Catherine and Alice Springs. Their range is about 40 k's. Okay? Outside that, through most of remote Australia, there is dead silence, radio silence, because there's nothing broadcasting it, okay? How is the ABC fulfilling its charter to broadcast to all Australians when it is ignoring our vast remote areas? Now, Michelle Rowland, the new minister, thinks she's got the answer, and that is a digital service to First Nations people. There's only one problem, and it hasn't started yet. They're working to get the funds for it. I can take you to remote communities in Australia where there are 500 people and not one computer. Okay? There again, it's making decisions without consulting the people on the ground. Remember the fiasco in Alice Springs early in the year with the ABC's coverage of a big public meeting about youth crime in the streets? The ABC sent out from Sydney a green, certainly First Nations reporter to cover it, but she was very young. They did not consult their own staff in Alice Springs. Long-term people, been there very long, very good at their job. When they cut off shortwave, they did it without consulting ABC staff in Alice Springs and Darwin. And if they'd asked them one question, the answer would have been, no, don't cut it, too many people depend on it. So we have a huge problem with ABC management being stuck in Sydney and not interested in what's going on anywhere else, okay? And that has been covered a great deal in Update, even to the point of reprinting the ABC, the Labor press release before the 2019 election. Labor will restore ABC shortwave radio to Northern Territory. And guess what? They haven't done it. It has not been done. Okay, all of these things are things that have been done. I've raved on for long enough. Time to...
Thank you, Mel. Now, we've got a limited time for questions.